You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools.
There's an old saying in politics: when quiet voices are ignored, the powerful often respond loudly. Before we break this down, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this coverage with others. Grab your favorite drink, coffee, water, or whatever keeps you focused, because this analysis is worth your full attention. Senator John Kennedy recently confronted Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in a moment that cut straight to the core of her arguments. He didn't simply offer criticism. He systematically challenged her positions, step by step, using facts and reasoning that are difficult to dismiss. That what's striking is that much of mainstream media has barely acknowledged this exchange. But for anyone following the implications for policy, governance, and political accountability, Kennedy's points are significant. Stick with us through the full breakdown, because what was said could have long-term implications for how Americans understand leadership, responsibility, and the standards expected of public officials.
Important issues in front of the United States Congress and the American people than who tweets what to whom. So let me say it one more time. I thought in the president's original tweet, I thought it was a poor choice of words. I think I know what the president meant, and he clarified later and said, look, if you're not happy in America, leave. Just leave. And I agree with that. But his original articulation of that concept, in my opinion, fell short of the mark. Number two, frankly, I don't know why the president felt the need to tweet on this subject at all. You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. You know, when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the Squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe. And that's kind of where I am on the subject. The president has explained his position. He has said, look, here's what I meant. If you're not happy living in America, leave. It's a free country, and I agree with that assessment.
If I am not on this committee for one term, my voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been.
Today's resolution, as it relates to Representative Omar, details 6 statements she made as a sitting member of Congress that, under the totality of the circumstances, disqualify her from serving on the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Don't tell
tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened.
The representative can say whatever the heck she wants, but we don't have to accept it or embrace it. Individuals who hold such hateful views should rightly be barred from that type of committee.
This institution is better because of her leadership, and the Foreign Affairs Committee benefits from her perspective. So let's talk about what's really happening. Republicans are waging a blatantly Islamophobic and racist attack on Congresswoman Omar. And I've said it before, I will say it again. The white supremacy happening is unbelievable. This is despicable.
We're not removing her from other committees. We just do not believe when it comes to foreign affairs, especially the responsibility of that position around the world with the comments that you make. She shouldn't serve there.
Senator John Kennedy recently delivered a pointed critique that's been long overdue. In a measured, step-by-step manner, he addressed concerns that many Americans have been thinking, but few have voiced publicly. He made a simple yet powerful observation. Some lawmakers have built careers by focusing on the nation's flaws, often criticizing the very system that enabled their success. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, alongside colleagues like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, has frequently highlighted issues within the United States, pointing out perceived injustice and inequality. Yet, as Kennedy noted, they benefit from the very freedoms, opportunities, and protections that allow them to serve at such high levels of government. His argument was not personal attack. It was about principles, accountability, and a relationship between rhetoric and responsibility. Kennedy's key point was straightforward. Engaging in endless argument with those unwilling to collaborate or contribute constructively does little but create conflict. He emphasized that meaningful debate requires shared goals, and that persistent criticism without solutions undermines progress. He also reminded listeners of a critical perspective. The United States provided safety, opportunity, and a platform for leadership for many, including those who arrived as refugees. Criticism is valid when rooted in evidence and aimed at improvement, but dismissing the system entirely risks undermining the very framework that sustains opportunity. Kennedy's message extended beyond individuals. He warned that extreme positions and uncompromising agendas could alienate ordinary voters and disrupt the broader political balance within parties. During the hearing, Kennedy also highlighted concerns about moral clarity. When confronted with a witness unwilling to clearly condemn acts of terrorism, the response reflected broader challenges in modern political discourse, where identity considerations can sometimes overshadow clear ethical positions. Kennedy used this moment to underline that accountability, transparency, and clarity are essential to preserving trust in institutions. This exchange was not merely about partisan debate. It was about the responsibilities of those in power, the importance of measured critique, and the value of evidence-based discussion. Kennedy reminded the nation that America itself remains a place of opportunity and liberty, and that leaders who disregard the systems and values that sustain that liberty risk destabilizing the institutions they are meant to serve. The broader takeaway is clear. Constructive criticism should be grounded in facts, respect for process, and a commitment to the country's enduring principles. Kennedy's statements underscore the need for honesty, accountability, and courage in leadership, qualities that resonate with many Americans seeking stability, fairness, and results-oriented governance.
You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Pressley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be foolish.
There's an old saying in politics: when quiet voices are ignored, the powerful often respond loudly. Before we break this down, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this coverage with others. Grab your favorite drink, coffee, water, or whatever keeps you focused, because this analysis is worth your full attention. Senator John Kennedy recently confronted Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in a moment that cut straight to the core of her arguments. He didn't simply offer criticism. He systematically challenged her positions, step by step, using facts and reasoning that are difficult to dismiss. That what's striking is that much of mainstream media has barely acknowledged this exchange. But for anyone following the implications for policy, governance, and political accountability, Kennedy's points are significant. Stick with us through the full breakdown, because what was said could have long-term implications for how Americans understand leadership, responsibility, and the standards expected of public officials.